Going from a giant collection of Java, Kotlin, and XML resources to something which can actually be deployed to an application is a little more complicated than just feeding things into a compiler. That's where a build tool like Gradle or Spring comes in. In Android Studio, we typically use the Gradle build automation tool. So what I'll do in this lesson is I'll just give you an overview of the different Gradle configuration files which you'll need to work with. So the two files which you'll need to be most concerned about are the build Gradle files. Now in a brand new Android Studio project, you will find a build.gradle file both in the root project folder, and this is what's known as the project level build Gradle file. And then any modules which you add will also have their own build.gradle files, which are of course referred to as a module level build.gradle file. So in the build Gradle file, which sits in the root folder of your project, go ahead and open that up. As the generated comment up above is kindly indicating, the things which you put in the project level build Gradle file will basically be configurations which are common or exposed to all of these subprojects and modules in the project. So think of this as configurations for the whole Android project. By default, Gradle files are written in a language called Groovy, and this is what Groovy looks like. Again, I won't be going into too much detail here, but we can specify some versions and different dependencies for the entire project. So dependencies are basically tools which we download and can use in our application. Notice we're also talking to different repositories. So for example, when we need to use tools written by other developers, so APIs, things like different tools to download data from the internet, to set up a REST adapter, different graphics tools which we want to use, so things like Recycler View, so on and so forth. What we can do is we connect to these remote repositories, which are like sort of code bases that our project can download from and integrate, and then we add dependencies to particular libraries or artifacts, as they're referred to, from these different repositories. Now, the things you'll find inside the project level build Gradle file, like I said before, they're configurations which apply to the entire Android project. When it comes to things we want to add to our Android application, or a particular module of our application, that's when we need to open up the module level build Gradle file. So as you can see in this app level build Gradle file, Gradle has actually done a lot of the work for us. So one of the nice features of this particular build tool is that it's marketed, and I can attest to this, as having good quality defaults while allowing for plenty of extensibility. So other than just adding particular dependencies to our application, another way we can expand the functionality of our Gradle setup is to apply plugins. So in this case, we already have the com.android.application plugin, and that basically provides all these different Android configurations for us. So I won't be going into too much detail here because the finer details are not so important. You'll understand them as you keep building Android applications. But this is where we can specify, for example, what version we're compiling to, the minimum version that the application is allowed to be compiled to. These version codes are basically useful when you're actually uploading your application to Google Play, and a couple other things like that. The only other thing in here I want to talk about are the dependencies. So if you want to use different tools created by other developers or Google's developers and stuff like that, so for example the constraint layout, which is a special kind of layout which we'll be talking about soon, what you'll need to do is you'll need to add basically a link to the repository artifact in order to download the dependency so that you can actually use it in your project. Again, there's plenty more to discuss here, but this should be a decent enough basic introduction to Gradle. And like I said before, the files that you want to care about most are going to be the build Gradle files, and that'll be the project level build Gradle file, which is in the root folder of your project, and then of course the module level build Gradle files. And like I said before, if you have a multi-module application, which this is not, then you will have a build Gradle file for each individual module. Anyways, that's a more advanced topic which we can talk about later.